Hi, and welcome to the Momversation Club, the podcast born out of the idea that every mom needs a tribe. I'm Christina Struckmeyer.
And I'm Claire Strong. We're two moms just like you, navigating the chaotic, challenging, and often isolating world of motherhood.
You know, it takes a village to raise a child, but in today's crazy world, we want to know, where the F is the village?
It's a question that resonates with many of us who find ourselves raising children, managing careers, and trying to maintain our identities, often with a sense of isolation.
But we're here to remind you that you're not alone. The Momversation Club is your village, a place where you feel valued, appreciated, and understood.
We believe that by sharing our experiences, successes, and our struggles, that we can create a virtual village for all of you amazing mums out there.
So join us every week for an honest, raw, and relatable discussions about all aspects of being a mom, including the stuff you just can't talk about with other people.
So if you've ever asked yourself, where the F is the village? Then you found your tribe. Let's get into it.
And now a quick break in the Momversation to bring you a word from today's sponsor.
Sometimes being a mom can feel overwhelming. And being a mum of a child with special needs, well, that doesn't come with a manual, or so we thought.
Today's sponsor is Flourishing Families, the annual special needs digital guide and online resource database from the Special Needs Resource Foundation and San Diego Family Magazine.
This one-stop shop provides a comprehensive resource list with access to over 1,000 options, including service providers, camps, therapists, advocates, and much more for families with disabilities in San Diego and Imperial County.
Flourishing Families also offers informative articles and helpful tips for parents just like us. Click the link in our show notes or visit snrfsd.org to explore these valuable resources today. Hey, Claire.
Hey, Christina. How are you?
I'm doing okay. I had kind of a busier week this week, leads to today's topic, but we had our annual IEP this week with Stella at her new school with all of her new team members. Claire, it was 3 hours long.
3 hours? Oh my God.
For those not familiar, like that's not normal. Like typically they're about an hour max, but we just had a lot of stuff to go over today. Not today, but yesterday. And it ended up being a longer meeting, and it just had to be that way. It wasn't anything we could do to make it shorter, but man, I was at the end of that meeting, my stomach was starting to growl. I had to pee. Like it was like, this has been a long time.
That is a long time. Well, that kind of ties in what we're going to talk about today, because we both have special needs kids. My daughter has got ADHD. Your daughter has autism. So we thought it would be a helpful discussion today to chat about the challenges really of parenting kids that, you know, are neurodiverse in whatever way that may present itself. So you just mentioned the IEP thing. So let's just, for listeners that may not know, your eldest Stella, she has autism, but this is her first mainstream school experience. She's in a mainstream class, isn't she?
She is, but she's, her school day is a little bit of like a puzzle piece, you know, okay. She's here, she's there, she's everywhere. Like she has like time everywhere, but yeah, she's a significantly larger time in a mainstream class this year. And that's been different than years in the past where we've had more time in like a special needs classroom. And so I talked earlier just a second ago about an IEP, and we've talked about so many special needs things on this show. We've taken you through the process of our diagnosis with both of our girls. We've taken you through what an IEP is, which for those who hadn't listened to that, it's an individualized education plan. But it's basically a meeting you do every year to go over their specific goals or their specific needs and accommodations they might need in school. And so there's like a lot of like things we've shared. And I feel like a lot of times I don't encounter the hard as much. And it can be really easy for me to kind of Susie Sunshine being an autism mom. I can really talk about the things that are so wonderful about, you know, having a child like Stella in my life. And there are so many wonderful things, but there's also a lot of challenging things. And there's a lot of heartache and upset in navigating your feelings around your child when they are different and neurodiverse. And this week was one of those weeks where I had a few moments of just kind of some sadness, some heartache come in this week. And I thought it would be helpful to just share that so that if you're also a mom who has a child who's neurodiverse, you maybe don't feel as alone. Hopefully it's relatable to you in a way, or you at least hear the other side of it, because we do talk about it in a positive light so much. There are some hardships.
So what made you upset this week? What was it that triggered that emotion?
Well, you know, my little one, Stella, she's not so little anymore. She is almost 10, and she is now in a mainstream school. You know, she's around other children her age. And I feel like I'm starting to realize she's noticing she's different. Up until now, I feel like the other children around her have been in a place where their communication was very like childish. You know, it was like, hey, my name's Sally and I like trucks and my favorite color is pink. What's your favorite color? And Stella was able to, you know, either not navigate that conversation or navigate it, but it was at a level that she recognized and could participate in if she chose to. And I've noticed as she's growing that the children around her are starting to get more socially complex. And it's bringing in some differentness feelings for myself noticing it. And I think also my daughter's noticing it. She's starting to see, oh, I am different. She hasn't verbalized it. And she knows she has autism. We've talked about it at length. She's aware of that. But I don't know if we've seen the impact socially be as a parent and for me to see her notice that. And so this week we had a moment where we were getting ready for school and she was kind of sad. And she didn't say that, but she had kind of a sad eyes, you know, a little bit of tears, not fully crying, but just kind of, you know, when you're holding back tears, you have a little bit of water in there, and kind of quiet and just wanting a lot of hugs and a lot of just kind of like one-on-one attention that morning. And I asked her, you know, and she's able to tell me some things because she's got limited vocabulary. But she is speaking now and she is back and forthing with me at a level of maybe like a toddler would. And I said, you know, are you feeling sad? And she said, no. And I said, okay, is your body hurting somewhere? Like, are you having a tummy ache or maybe a headache or something's going on in your body? Did you have any pain in your body? And she said, no. And I kept asking her questions, you know, to kind of try to figure out, because she can't tell me. And I got to a place of, do you feel uncomfortable? And she said, yes. And then I tried to narrow that down. And she said, I don't want to talk about it. And it kind of shut the conversation down. And so my mama heart went, okay, this could be that her sock is not aligned with her shoe right now, and she's uncomfortable because of that. Or it could be that she's uncomfortable with something that's about to happen at school. It could be that she's uncomfortable in the way that she's feeling in that environment. It's hard for me to know. I asked if she felt safe, and she said she did feel safe. And so I kind of just like left it at that. But I'm noticing her interacting with other children at the playground. And the girls are doing this thing where at this age, they're starting to huddle, you know, there's 3 or 4 girls kind of in a space and they're all talking about the movie they saw or the show they're watching or, you know, so-and-so's birthday party. And they all kind of go in their own little social groups. And my daughter is out on the playground kind of doing her sad eyes. And it broke my heart.
Oh, Christina, I'm so sorry. So did you actually see this for yourself?
Yeah, I can see it at because I drop her off and then I occasionally will go in and just observe her playing. And it's you can see that she kind of goes on her own space while the other children kind of at this age are starting to kind of do what they do, which is to socially gather and stuff. And so it's just been hard. And I just wish it was one of those days in being a mom of a special needs child where I go, God, I wish I could just know her. Like, I wish that she could just talk to me and tell me what's on her mind, if someone's being mean to her, if she's feeling sad, like if there's something going on socially that she can tell me. I just always pictured myself as a mom who would be open and honest and conversating with her daughter at this age as she was entering this stage of adulthood, going into that preteen stage.
Yeah.
And I don't have access to that. And it's so heartbreaking for me as a mom to not know and not have any way of figuring that out, what's going on internally with her.
Have you spoken with a teacher about this?
Yeah, I mean, her teacher sees the students in class, and I don't think these students are being mean. Like, let me just say that. The students are doing student things at this age. It's super normal and developmentally appropriate for children to start creating social circles at this age. When she's in the classroom, teacher says that the students are really kind to her. They like sit next to her while she's coloring. If they're doing free time in class, if she kind of gets a little distracted, they'll be like, Stella, come over here. And they're very, they help redirect. But yeah, when it comes to that free time where they're all like, okay, release. The children kind of go in their own spaces, and then she's kind of on her own. And it's hard to know if she has friends because she can't tell me who her friends are at school or what's going on. We have very limited communication as to what happens. I just get what the teacher says and like the limited version of what happened that day.
I'm so sorry. That must be absolutely heartbreaking. I mean, so as a mom, how do you navigate that? Because, that type of thing, we've just got this instinct as mothers where we want to jump in and we want to make it all right. So how are you navigating this new phase?
I don't know yet. I'm just trying to I'm trying not to put imaginary scenarios in my head and pretending that that's exactly what's happening, because I don't know. I don't know what's happening. So I'm just trying to stay open to what might be happening and share with her. And if she comes to me, like, we can talk more, but I don't really know. I'm in uncharted territory at the moment of how to navigate that, because with children on the spectrum, I have friends that have children on the spectrum, but they're all so different. And so, I have a good friend whose daughter isn't able to verbally say much of anything. And so even the little verbal like back and forth I get is ahead of what she's getting. And then I have other moms who have children that, are on the spectrum and are fully participating in the mainstream class and are able to back and forth like a neurotypical child their age. And maybe they might have like fixations and like specific topics they like to talk about. So no experience is like exactly like mine. So there isn't that parent to go to and say, hey, how do you navigate that? How do you feel about that? I think we all, as moms on the spectrum, not moms on the spectrum, moms who have children on the spectrum, we all kind of feel a little alone because we don't have someone who has that exact experience of how to navigate that specific child. We just are trying to figure it out as we go.
So we've spoken at length on the podcast about, finding your tribe, about trying to connect with other moms so you're not feeling as isolated. But when you've got a child who's on the spectrum, I mean, my eldest has ADHD, although her socially she's very, very strong. Her struggles are more focus and executive functioning type of issues. But here's the thing. It's even more isolating as a parent of a child on the spectrum because, number one, most people around you probably don't have a child that is presenting exactly like yours. And especially as it relates to autism, for every autistic child, there are lots of children that are neurotypical. And because of that, that shrinks your social pool of other mums that kind of get it. And so I'm glad we're having this conversation today because there are a lot of mums out there who will feel very isolated because they just don't have that other mum that gets it, because maybe their child is neurotypical or maybe their child, they may be on the spectrum. But as you've said, Christina, every child presents very, very differently.
Yeah. And I feel like we all feel a little bit of like, I don't want to say the wrong thing too, because
Yeah.
I am not perfect. Like I am also, this is my first time being a mom in general in life. And this is my first time raising this 9.5-year-old. And I'm also entering this language space of like, I don't want to say something hurtful. I don't want to say something that's going to offend someone. I don't want to talk about my issues when maybe that person's having a harder time. Um, it's difficult. It's difficult to even find support in support groups because then, you know, I may be talking about the difficulty and like the limited conversation, but then we have another child maybe that is not able to even speak at all or say mom. And, you know, to that person, I'm small beans, small potatoes. My issues are not as big as I'm making them seem. And so it's difficult, I think. And also for you, Claire, like I have friends that have children that are you know, having neurodiversity with ADHD. And that's hard too, because your child doesn't immediately come across as having more needs than other children. And
So
that can be even harder.
you've hit the nail on the head there. Now, I am forever thankful that we did get Sophia diagnosed and she has got this IEP, this support system in place at school, because for Sophia, it was exactly that. She is extremely social. She's very confident. She's very articulate. She's a clever girl. You would not think there was anything going on with her, except she struggles terribly with focusing, with executive functioning. And if she hadn't have been diagnosed, those characteristics could easily have been characterized as, you know, maybe laziness, she's just not trying. And that was never the case with her. She just finds processing, certainly, you know, subjects like math and science, she finds processing those subjects in especially very, very difficult. And because for years she hadn't been diagnosed, she just felt like she was stupid. And so that's been really difficult for me to see, because, you know, as a mom, you know there's something off with your child. I've known there was something with Sophia since she was a toddler, but because she doesn't present, she's not on the autism spectrum, so that was ruled out very early on because her social skills are so advanced. And there were other, you know, points that the experts would say to me, this basically cancels out autism for her. And so that's fair enough. But then, you know, it took us a long time to get any type of diagnosis. And so, you know, as a mom, it's, your heart breaks for them because they unfortunately can develop a real lack of confidence, which can lead to depression. It can lead to anxiety, which can then spiral into social isolation, even for someone as social as my daughter, because, you know, school's hard for them. Everyday life can be hard for them. And as I've said, my eldest daughter presents as a very normal, you know, teenager, but she has gone through periods where life is just a real struggle for her. You know, getting up in the morning, getting organized to get out of the door. Now she's getting a lot better because I think in large part she has this support at school. She has an executive functioning class at school, which is just excellent because it's given them kind of life skills for keeping themselves on track, basically. But, you know, things that you and I, it's not a big deal for us. For someone like Sophia, it is a big deal. And for her to get to school on time is a massive achievement. And, you know, just yesterday she was she was making a tomato soup from scratch, and she roasted the vegetables. She'd found this recipe on TikTok. She'd roasted the vegetables. She'd done everything herself. And she kept saying to me, Mum, she said to me, I'm so excited, Mum. It makes me really happy that I'm cooking. And I said, well, that's good, darling. You know, it's you know, I love cooking too. I love that you love it. But then she said to me a couple of times, are you proud of me? And so I said, of course I am. But, you know, maybe a child that doesn't have the struggles that Sophia has, that wouldn't have even entered their head. They're just making soup. But for Sophia, she was doing this on her own, largely without my help. And that was a big deal for her. And so, you know, that's something that is different for me compared to a mum of a neurotypical child, or even maybe to another mum who has a kid with ADHD, because I do know mums with kids with ADHD, Christina, and their kids, you know, there are some commonalities, but then they have their own quirks too that I can't necessarily relate to, because Sophia actually doesn't struggle in that area, or vice versa. And so, yeah, it's challenging. And I think the overriding desire for me is just that she's happy. And to make her happy, what happiness looks like for her is her feeling a sense of achievement in what she does in life. Because there's nothing worse for her than being in an environment where she thinks she's stupid or that she's failing, because that environment's not set up for her. And so my wish for her is for her to find her, you know, her stride in life and her passion and her people.
I love that. I think that that's kind of what we all want as parents, is to have our kids, regardless of any diagnosis, we want our kids to be happy and healthy. We want them to do things they're passionate about. We want them to feel confident and feel, you know, that they can talk to us. But it's hard when you have a child who has those extra needs, because there's that overriding instinct as a mom to make sure they're okay. You know, I have to stop myself from like hovering, because I want to make sure she's able to have that freedom to make mistakes, to grow, to learn, and to try to do social things. And it can be tough, like as a mom in general, as they're growing, to see that role that used to be so like, if I don't watch you with every second of my being, something will happen to you, to go from like protector to now I'm just like a watchful eye. I'm here to guide you. And I think when they have extra needs, that guidance, you're trying to ride this line of like, I don't want to go too far with the guidance and hinder them from, you know, finding that self-confidence, finding that groove that they need, but they also need so much help. It's this constant line that we're kind of on. And I just feel like there's a lot of extra work that goes into it too, mentally, as a mom.
And now a quick break in the Momversation to bring you a word from today's sponsor.
Raise your hand if you love shopping for jeans. Well, if you're listening with a hand up, then you're in the minority, because for most of us, it's a nightmare.
Waist gaps, unclear sizing, fluorescent lights, unflattering fits. I am sweating just thinking about it. What if we could skip all of that and just have the perfect pair magically transported to us?
Well, that's where today's sponsor, Neems Jeans, comes in. This women-owned business was created by someone who understands the struggle and offers custom denim jeans made to your exact body measurements, delivered right to your door.
Neems Jeans gives you the perfect fit every time, guaranteed, and offers inclusive sizings for every body. Moms, you are one of a kind, and your jeans should be too. Visit neemsjeans.com and use code Momversation15 at checkout for 15% off your order.
That's NEEMSjeans.com and code Momversation15 for your special savings. Do you find yourself, I know your girls are younger than mine, but I find myself in this situation a lot, and I do recognize it. So my younger one, I kind of let her get on with things, and I probably ask more of her than I do my eldest. And it's because I don't want to overload my eldest, because I know she, just kind of doing life can be a lot for her sometimes. And so I don't want to overload her with extra responsibilities. Whereas my younger one, who isn't on the spectrum, who doesn't have ADHD, I kind of feel that she is able to do more. So, what that might look like is me making something for my eldest, like food-wise, or fixing her a snack. And sometimes I don't necessarily, it sounds terrible, think to do that for my youngest, because if they were there together, I wouldn't leave my youngest out. But
yeah, it's like fend for yourself.
Yeah, she might be upstairs doing her own thing, but I sometimes, I'm thinking to myself, I've got to make, my eldest a snack, because otherwise she's not going to eat. Whereas I know my youngest is going to come down and make herself a snack, and it's not an issue. And, even breakfast, sometimes I'll make my eldest breakfast, and it's not because I'm favoritizing. And I will ask my youngest if she wants something, but 9 times out of 10, she's made her own breakfast. But for my eldest, that's just one extra thing that she has to contend with. And in the grand scale of things, her getting to school is what I need her to do. And so if I can take some of the responsibility of that off her, I will. So I do.
Yeah, you're removing barriers that might prohibit her from getting that goal of getting to school on time.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I wouldn't say we have that situation just because we have just such different stages of our girls, but I will say, as a special needs mom with one child who is not special needs, I am really mindful to not, what am I trying to say? I want to make sure that my youngest child isn't shafted. That, like, you know, because her sister has so much extra needs and needs so much more attention and needs to be, you know, sometimes prioritized as far as like what we're doing that day. I don't want my younger one to feel like she is like, you know, Slim Pickens over here. I don't want her to feel like, you know, she just has to kind of survive and doesn't get that attention. And so I'm really intentional with making sure I don't do that as she gets older. I want my daughter, my younger one, who is neurotypical for all I know, I want her to have the benefit of having her older sister in her life and learning empathy and differences in others and like learning how to navigate that world. But I don't want it to be her whole identity is like the sister of a child on the spectrum.
Yes.
It's hard. It's a hard line to, and it's something I'm going to be constantly observant of because I don't want to do that to her. But yeah, we have an opposite way of like, I'm just really mindful of not putting extra on her because I know she can handle it, but I don't want her to.
And I think that's a healthy attitude, and it's not necessarily intentional that I lean slightly the other way. I just feel that I know that my eldest struggles a lot with very basic things some days, and so because of that, naturally my attention is veered towards her. What I will say is my youngest, who is, you know, she's very like me in personality, and she has said to me, and I think this is a positive from this situation, that she's more empathetic with people at her school that have ADHD because she has a sister with ADHD. She can recognize triggers, she recognizes certain behaviors. And so inadvertently, I think, you know, because she's got a sister who has ADHD, Eva actually has developed a lot more empathy than a lot of kids her age. So that's feedback that I get from my youngest about this situation.
That's wonderful feedback to have.
It is,
I think in both of our conversations as we're sharing, I'm hearing this common thread of like this ongoing narrative and invisible work of making sure that everything's shored up so that that child has everything they need. And it's like almost having this, there's motherhood, and then there's motherhood times two when it comes to being a special needs mom. There's this other background noise of like, okay, Sophia's going to have a hard time getting there. We need to do this. We need to do that. Okay, I need to make sure this is packed. I need to make sure that's done. And I have that same narrative of like, okay, this week we have this on the schedule. Make sure you remind her of it. Make sure it's on the visual calendar. Make sure we tell her multiple times during the week it's coming up, so it's not the routine change. It's just this ongoing extra stuff on us. And as a mom, we talk in the earlier part of this episode about the heartbreak piece of like some of the harder things, but then there's also this other piece of like this ongoing workload that comes on us as moms to make sure that they're okay. And I feel like it's always a work that's not done. Like it's always go, go, go. And at the end of the day, I think, man, I should have done more here. I should have done more there. I should be more on top of it in this space. If I have any mom guilt as a mom, it's from this space. It's from the special needs mom category space, because I'm like, well, look at so-and-so. She did all this, this, and this, and now her daughter's here. What if I don't do that work? Or what if I'm not as good as that mom? Is my child not going to get to the space that she could have if I would have done that? It's a lot of like what ifs that I go through in my mind. I'm constantly like hurting myself with what ifs.
I think it's harder to let go with your special needs child as well. For example, you know, Sophia, she's decided she wants to study fashion design and she wants to go to fashion school, which is great. I think it's a perfect fit for her. So now we're kind of gearing towards that. So my role is shifting, I feel, from, you know, being I'm still the protector, but from being the kind of enabler of her getting through a day to me positioning her to be successful, even if I'm not physically there. And so, whereas I don't think I'm going to necessarily need to do all that work with my second one, because she's just, you know, a different person. And so, yeah, I think it's, you know, the thought of Sophia leaving home in a couple of years, you know, that's a lot, because, you know, I think she will fly, but then, you know, she's also still going to very much need me, I think, in lots of ways. So that's going to be an interesting transition for all of us. She does say to me quite often, Mum, she said, you know, Mum, you know, in 2 years, I'm going to be at college. And I'm like, oh my God, what can you do? Maybe one you just, you know, maybe do it online. No, I don't want to do online at all. I think
my
she needs to be in person. But it's, and so I wonder if I'm going to have the same feelings with my second one. I'm sure I probably will, but I just know that, you know, with Sophia, I feel like I'm a parent and a half with her, because there's some of the stuff that maybe her peers are doing right now, or that the parents of her peers are doing right now. That's just not where we are.
Yeah, definitely. And it's so nerve-wracking. I have to really focus myself on having just the what if and mom guilt and all of the negative stuff with what's happening right now. Because if I start projecting out, I can really like drive myself crazy mentally. And I think a lot of special needs moms can relate in the fact that if you project outward, even like 2 years, 3 years from now, you don't want to do that, because you're like, well, then they might not be in that space. They might be way ahead of it. They could be exactly where they're at now and not have progressed. It could be that they never move out of the house and we take care of them forever. It could be that everything becomes a lot easier in the next few years. You just don't know. And there's just, it's a mean mind trick for myself to go even a year out. I have to really harness in and be like, Christina, today's problems only, because as a special needs mom, I remember when I got the diagnosis, and I started realizing what that meant and what it could mean. What it could mean and what it actually meant are two different things. But my brain went to what it could mean. And I try to protect myself by going to every scenario that could possibly happen. And it was heartbreaking. I was like, well, maybe she'll never speak to me. What if she never says mom? What if she never has friends? What if she, like, I just was sitting there hurting myself with a million little cuts. And I've learned since then that you can't predict anything ever with any children, but especially ours. And it's useless to go into those what ifs. And it's really, really hard because we don't know how Sophia is going to be in 2 years. We don't know how Stella is going to be in 8 years. And it's hard as moms. I think we all do it in a way, whether you have a child on the spectrum or who has ADHD or not. We all go, oh God, they're going to leave our nest one day. Will they survive? But like we do that times 100 because we're worried about the big bad world and like what's going to happen to them with other people who aren't as kind and supportive and loving as we are.
And on that point, I just want to say that I think kids that have, you know, ADHD or autism or in some way are not neurotypical, they are the kindest people on this planet. I mean, Sophia has such a huge heart. She's such a kind person. And I sometimes feel that the world isn't kind enough for her. She's too kind for this world. And I just feel it's the world that needs to change around her and not necessarily her.
God, I feel that so hard. Yes. Well, the reason I thought this was so important today is I think we just need to have an open dialogue about what's happening. Because if you peel away all the tips and all the fronts and all of these are my good days, look at me being a stellar mom, there are these underneath feelings of worry and being scared and feeling jealous. And there's all these different feelings we have as mothers. And I think that we need to talk about it. We need to talk about it more. We need to share with other moms how we're feeling because that's how they feel less alone. Even though our situations are so different, I can feel and empathize with you in your situation with Sophia. And I know that you feel that for me and Stella. And I think that if you're listening and you have a child who is special needs in some way, I hope this gave you a little bit of like feeling less alone. And we want to hear from you. Like, if you feel safe to do that, we'd love to hear your experience and the realities and things that we have. If you're someone who speaks on this or has a platform, maybe have you on the show. Like, I just want our Momversation Club to be a space where we can keep it real in all ways. Mm-hmm. And this is kind of at the underbelly of being a special needs parent, is the sadness, the heartbreak, the worry, the catastrophizing, all of the stuff. It's a big mix, and there's so much joy and love and kindness from our children, and they're so special in their own way, but also this is here too. They coexist. And that brings us to the end of another episode of the Momversation Club.
And if you've enjoyed today's show, which of course we hope you have, then please don't forget to subscribe, like, and leave a review. Your support helps us to reach even more mums and build a stronger village.
Until next time, bye.